Hey everybody, welcome to the channel. WildMax1 here bringing you another Raid Shadow Legends video. Today we're going to be doing another champion guide on the channel, this time on one of the absolute best AoE nukers in the entire game, and in my opinion, one of the coolest looking champs in the entire game, the Cheshire Cat. That's right, we're going to be doing a skills breakdown, going over how to build this guy correctly, and finally showcasing him in Hydra and in Arena. Let's get into it. So the Cat was released in June of 2025 as part of the Alice in Wonderland adventure event. He was released alongside 4 other champions, including Alice, who was free, Queen and Knave of Hearts, and the Mad Hatter, who was the fusion. And he quickly established himself as a threat in both Arena and in Hydra due to his amazing AoE nuke capabilities. He's got built-in survivability, speed aura, and he's just a fantastic champ, regardless of whether you're going to use him for PvE or PvP. And with that, let's take a look at his kit. Looking at his A1, Phase Claw. Attacks one enemy. If this champ is under a Veil or Perfect Veil buff, attacks all enemies instead. Places a Perfect Veil buff on this champion for 1 turn. Damage is based on both attack and speed. That's actually really nice given that both of those stats are really important for Arena. It's also great that he provides himself with the buff necessary to unlock this ability. So that's a really great A1. On his A2, Feline Frenzy. Attacks one enemy 3 times. Each hit will decrease the enemy's speed by 1%, stacking up to 10. This effect does not work against bosses. Each hit will also increase this champion's speed by 1%, stacking up to 10. If this skill kills an enemy, places a Perfect Veil buff on this champion and the ally with the lowest turn meter for 2 turns. Once again, damage based on attack and speed. This is on a 4-turn, booking down to a 3-turn cooldown. So triple hitter, always relevant in PvP, right? Great for getting through somebody like a Rotos, for example. Each hit will decrease the enemy's speed. Also nice to decrease the speed on some of their quicker champions. And he also helps stack up his own speed, which of course buffs his damage. Additionally, Perfect Veil provides 15% reduced damage from AoE attacks. So it's nice that he puts that on himself and the ally with the lowest turn meter. On his A3, Grinning Helix. Attacks all enemies before attacking, places a Perfect Veil buff and a 50% increased attack on this champ for 2 turns. Grants an extra turn if this attack kills an enemy. Wow, 6 turns, booking down to a 4-turn cooldown. Really good. Once again, so every single ability so far, he is applying his own Perfect Veil, which is necessary to unlock his A1, and again, brings survivability and just makes him harder to target, makes him harder to deal with, in PvP especially. Grants an extra turn, so he's got an extra turn mechanic so he can reset his A2 a little bit faster. Really strong so far. Looking now at his passive. 3-turn cooldown for the active effect. Whenever this champ is about to receive a hit that would drop their HP below 20, blocks that damage and places a block damage and Perfect Veil buff on this champ for 1 turn. So now every single ability, including the passive, places a Perfect Veil on this champion. Wow. Passive effect. If this champion is under a Perfect Veil, turn meter effects are 30% more effective, and this champ's attacks will ignore 15% of the target's defense and do 15% more damage. Wow, so basically this is always going to be up. This passive effect, he's always going to be getting that 15% extra defense pen and the 15% increased damage. Really good. Additionally, if him being under Perfect Veil constantly wasn't enough, he also now is having a block incoming damage and a block damage buff that he puts on himself on a 3-turn cooldown, which again goes down to 2 turn if he kills somebody with his A3. Such a strong kit, really cohesive. Everything seems to really work together really well on this champ. I'm really loving this. And finally, let's take a look at his aura. Increase ally speed and all battles by 19%. Great. Same thing as like on a Fabian, but again, he is a champ that scales off of speed, so it's nice that he can bring his own speed aura to a comp. So now let's take a look at total stats and priority stats for the Cheshire Cat. 15k HP is a little bit low, but again, you're not as concerned about that because of his built-in survivability with Perfect Veil and with that block incoming damage and block buffs. 1500 attack, very good. 1k defense, a little low, again, but his survivability is really probably not going to be a concern. 101 speed. For a speed champ, I would like to see that a little bit higher, but he does have the speed aura and he does have some increased speed mechanics for his A2, and then he also gets more turn meter fill through his passive, so he can actually be pretty fast, I think, with those two aspects of his kit. For priority stats, obviously you're going to be looking at speed, attack, cap and crit, and then putting on as much crit damage as possible. You really don't have to worry about hitting like a minimum number for HP on this guy or getting more tankiness and survivability on him. Just make him as quick as possible and as hard hitting as possible, and then that's going to help him cycle through his abilities and keep that passive with the block incoming damage on him whenever he needs it. So with that, let's take a look at how to build this cat, right? So we already know that he has some built-in survivability in his kit, which means that we have some flexibility when it comes to gearing him because we don't have to worry about him getting one shot necessarily, right? So before we take a look at my gear and what I have on him and how I have him built, let's talk about sets on the cat. So in my opinion, the absolute best set that you can use on the Cheshire Cat for both arena and PvE content is going to be Merciless. The chance to decrease a random skill cooldown along with the chance for an extra turn synergizes really well with the cat's kit because it helps him get his passive and his A3 back faster so he can cycle through more turns and just make sure that he always has that fail-safe, that block incoming damage. So 9-piece Merciless, top of the board. After that, it gets pretty flexible with the cat. Again, you don't need to worry about Stone Skin. Of course, Stone Skin does protect you from things like turn meter pushback and from potential crowd control. But again, if you have the right complement around the cat in the team, like a block debuffs champ or something like that, then you should be just fine. So again, opens up for more nuance and a lot of different combinations when it comes to damage sets. So you can either go for like lethal and savage or just 6-piece Merciless if you don't have the 9. But lethal and savage plus a lot of different 2-piece sets, right? Like you can throw him in impulse, so lethal plus impulse, lethal plus speed, lethal plus feral if you want, even lethal plus pinpoint. Any one of those, even perception, it gives you 5% speed, whatever you have, cruel, any one of those 2 pieces is going to be really valuable for like boosting your speed and damage. So the best thing that I was able to pull off on the Cheshire Cat is 4-piece lethal along with 2-piece zeal and 2-piece pinpoint. The 2-piece pinpoint is just in my accessories, but the 2-piece zeal, I happen to get some really nice pieces with good rolls for the cat. So I'm testing this out. This is actually my first time using zeal on any of my champs because I just didn't have great pieces before. Again, if you do want to put your Cheshire Cat in Stone Skin because you're going to be focusing primarily on arena, absolutely get that. 4-piece lethal, 4-piece Stone Skin, still fantastic, probably right underneath 9-piece Merciless for arena specifically. But for other content where you don't need the Stone Skin, don't worry about it so much. Again, you can build them like this with just pure damage sets, and he's still going to excel in both PvE content and in arena. And with that, let's take a look at my individual pieces and what I have them in. Starting with my accessories, we have a attack pinpoint ring with attack percent substat, crit with crit damage amulet, and we have a pinpoint attack accessory with some speed. Pretty low on the speed, but right now I don't have any better attack-based banners for Demon Spawn, unfortunately, so this was the best option I could get with attack and speed. For gloves, we have crit damage with crit damage ascension. Chest is attack percent ascension. Boots are speed with speed. And again, we are working with both a zeal set, which gives me extra damage, along with that lethal set. So for total stats, we're looking at just under 40K, just under 38K HP, 6.1K attack, 2.6K defense, 263 speed, crit capped, 330-ish crit damage. And it's working out really well so far in Hydra and working out really well in Arena with those stats. Ideally, I'd like to get his attack a little bit higher and his speed a little bit higher to be more competitive in Arena, depending on where you are, though, and what tier you're sitting in for Live Arena or for Classic or whatever. For Classic, that's enough. For Live Arena, you're probably going to need a little bit more speed and a little bit more attack. Now, of course, that's provided you're going to be in like gold for Live Arena, but depending on what tier you're in and what kind of opponents you're facing, your speed needs and your attack needs might be a little bit different. If you don't have any ignore percent defense gear like lethal or savage, you can throw him in something like cruel. You can just throw him in pure speed gear, honestly, if that's all you have. And he's still going to perform decently just because he has built-in ignore percent defense from his passive and from Helm Smasher if you build him that way. And then you can throw a Cat's Gaze Relic on him or something like that. And with that, good segue, let's actually go and take a look at what Relic I have on him. So surprise, surprise, the Relic I have on the Cheshire Cat is the Cat's Gaze. That's right. With the HP total as low as he has and the ignore percent defense you get from this Relic, this really is, in my opinion, the best Relic you can put on him for both PvP and for PvE content. It provides him with crit damage, attack, and again, that ever valuable ignore percent defense. So I think this is the absolute best thing you can throw on him. If you have it, if you don't have it, then you can work with, whatever other relics you have. Malefic Talon is a really good budget option for a lot of damage dealers. It just gives you a flat damage proc, chance to do more with each hit, along with crit damage. So that's a stand-in that I have for a lot of the champs that I end up using that don't have my high-end relics. Now let's take a look at blessing. For blessings for the Cheshire Cat, you actually have quite a few options to work with. I decided to go with Heaven Cast. I have mine currently 5-star Awaken. If I had a 6-star Awakening on him, I would unquestionably be going for Crushing Rend. This is by far going to be the best, giving him that ignore percent defense in Hydra. It's so good on any damage dealer for PvE content. But since I only have the 5-star, Heaven Cast is actually quite good. It gives me extra damage for each buff that is currently on the cat. I run him in some buff-heavy comps, so he's good. And this works for both PvE and in Arena, so this is a really great option. If you do have him in Stone Skin, or if you just don't want to have anybody in Arena strip off his Perfect Veil, you can actually put yours in Lightning Cage. It also gives him a little bit extra damage with those at the 6-star with the percent max HP hits. So that one works just fine. If you would like, you can also put him in Soul Reap just to get that extra chance to execute below a certain HP threshold for Arena, although he already hits incredibly hard. So I don't know if this is strictly necessary, but any one of those would be good. I think Heaven Cast, if you're below 6-star, and then for 6-star, the best, in my opinion, would be Crushing Rend. And to round out the build, let's check out Masteries. First, let's move myself over here so you can see everything. Okay, so clearly I want to maximize his ignore percent defense. I went down and picked up Helm Smasher in the offense tree. While I do sometimes use him in Arena, I am primarily focusing on him in Hydra Clan Boss. So these Masteries that you see here are more focused on PvE. If I were going strictly for Arena or more Arena focused, then I would probably end up dropping Heart of Glory and picking up Shield Breaker just to break those shields in Arena. I would probably end up leaving Life Drinker off and going with Whirlwind of Death. And I may even consider also picking up Kill Streak. And if I were to be going for Arena, I would still have the offense tree as my primary, and as my secondary, I would probably switch from the defense tree. I may keep these, but I would alter it slightly. I would come and pick up Improved Parry, and then I would come down and probably end off in Retribution. But the other option you have is also to come into the support tree and then to go down to pick up Rapid Response. He does buff himself, and they are on a 1-turn cooldown when he puts Perfect Veil on himself, so they're constantly getting removed off of him as they expire. So this has a really great chance to boost his turn meter, which then synergizes nicely with his passive, where he has more turn meter fill effects, are 30% more effective on him. And then you can come down and pick up even lasting gifts if you want to have that increased attack last on him for a little bit longer. So for PvE, I think this is a great setup. For PvP, while this would work just fine, I think making sure you're including Shield Breaker and Whirlwind of Death would probably be your best option. So now that we know how to build the cat right, let's go see what the Cheshire Cat can do in Arena. Let's go with this team right here. They already have the cat avatar set, so we'll go against them. So notice the Yumiko on their team. That is a lockout champ. For a lot of damage dealers, that would be pretty devastating to only be able to use their A1. Luckily, however, the Cheshire Cat's A1 hits like an absolute truck. So let's go in here and see what the Cheshire Cat can do against this team. So, okay, so I am faster than them. We're going to go ahead and boost. I don't want to just completely knock them out, though. So what I'll do is I will take out their Sifi, and then I will potentially take out, okay, not quite. There we go. All right, so let's see what happens here. Strip their buffs. Sifi has locked everybody out. Odin's passive, in this case, put up the block buffs, so Cheshire Cat's is actually still available if I need it. His passive has not procced yet, so he's doing well. Shadow Smile is still very active right here. Okay, so let's go ahead and hit Trunda first without a perfect veil on, and she's also under petrification, so that wasn't going to do a lot of damage. I wanted that to happen. That's good, because what I want is for Trunda to come out of her little spell here, and then for Cheshire Cat to be able to use his A1. All right, here we go. Cheshire Cat, A1. Boom. 143k damage onto that. And a weak hit on the Trunda, unfortunately. But again, just showing that even if the Yumiko locks out the Cheshire Cat, that's not going to do anything to save their team. The Cheshire Cat is still going to be able to absolutely put them down. So now let's just run a few teams on auto and see how this goes. Just want to show off some of the damage that Cheshire Cat can do with the A3, and then clean up anything remaining alive with that extra turn in the A1. So in this case, really solid hits we saw there, over 200k on some of those with the decreased defense from Odin, although Cheshire Cat's doing, with a Helm Smasher proc, pretty close to 100, pretty close to 100% ignore defense, just because of the Cat's Gaze that we have on there, the 15% from the passive, and the Helm Smasher proc, and the lethal set. Let's check out this team. All right, so they actually go first. There we saw the damage proc, even though that was a multi-hitting ability from Teox, we saw that it was blocked by the Cheshire Cat. All right, so let's see if we can bring this one back from the brink. Okay, let's go ahead and lock out the Armands. Nothing happening with the Teox. Let's Arbice there with the taunt. Some healing. Let's bring this back. Let's kill their Odin and bring back the Cheshire Cat. Let us once again lock out the Armands. Taunt. Teox has to go into there. Good. I am going to push back the turn meter on their Arbice. All right, here we go. Here's the cat. Let's see what he can do. Boom. Kills both of them. It's his turn again. 2 weak hits in a row. Unfortunate, but we saw there that was a really good 1-2 punch, knocking out both the Teox and the Arbice. Now, of course, the big takeaway from that last match was just how powerful that Shadow Smile passive is at keeping the cat alive. But keep in mind, if he does have a block buffs on himself, then he may not be able to put the block damage on himself as part of the Shadow Smile passive. So that triple hitter from Teox on his A2 may have killed him there. So that is something to keep in mind. Let's just do one more here just to see how hard the cat can hit. Hopefully be able to see an A1 as well, not just an A3. All right, well, it is what it is. hard hitting. In order to see how hard that A1 can hit, let's move over to Hydra Clan Boss. All right, now let's do a quick Hydra showcase here. Let's show off some of that A1 damage. Here we have a comp built around the Cheshire Cat here just to show how much damage this guy can really do in Hydra, showing that AoE A1. All right, so let's boost some speed. Let's try to get a hit off on the Head of Decay. We're going to want to kill that as quickly as possible. Already sitting under the Perfect Veil. Another A1 coming out. Nothing crazy there yet. We're going to see here, it's going to start building in just a moment. There we saw a pretty big one already. Already having knocked down almost knocked down one of the heads. Okay. Again, pretty big hit. And we're going to be taking off here in just a moment. All right, let's move it along, cycle through. All right, Teox A1 coming in on the Head of Wrath with boosted. Boom, 500, 500, 375. Let's see another hit here. 1 million right there on the dead Head of Wrath. That was a really good one. Let's do another one. 1.7, 1 million over here. You see how it just keeps adding up, and he just keeps applying the Perfect Veil to himself. Even have to worry about that. Boom, still goes in. 1.3 million on this head, knocking down the other heads. Just a chain reaction of destruction in Hydra. This works on Nightmare too if you have the right team built around him. I already have used some of the champs that I would normally have for Nightmare, such as my Feral. So in this case, I am just showing you guys what kind of 1.25, no decreased defense, no weaken on this, 1.25 million on that hit in AoE. So strong from the cat. Unbelievable. All right, let's see another one here. Let's go with hit right here. 291 on that one. Those were weak hits on these two, unfortunately. All right, here we go. Decreased defense. Let's see what we can do. Only 800K on that one. I was expecting a little more. All right, here we go. 900 here. Let's keep going. 2 million, 1 million, 1 million. Amazing, right? The damage, and this is all from his A1. It's just stacking up. Boss turn counter at 4. We're already at 30 million damage. Let's go ahead and end that battle. Just to show you guys, again, Cheshire Cat was far and away taking off on that one. Everyone else was supporting with damage. Super powerful, huge hits the Cheshire Cat can do with just that Phase Claw under Perfect Veil. And there you have it, everybody, the Cheshire Cat. Incredible AoE nuker with amazing survivability built into his kit. Really powerful for both PvE and PvP. If you found today's guide helpful, please like and subscribe. Let me know down in the comments if there's any other champs you would like a guide for. Thank you for watching today's video. Thank you for your time. Have a great day, and I'll catch you in the next one.